Hey guys, it's Miss Wills. If you missed class today, then maybe by watching this video I can help you catch up a little bit. Alright, first thing we did in class today was we did this bell ringer. I need you to answer the following questions on your paper. That would be the paper in your spiral notebook. You do not have to write the questions this time. I'll cut you some slack. Just write the answers. Alright, I'm going to read these answers to you and then we're going to move right along. Alright, number 1. What was the first civilization that we know about? Number 2, where was this civilization located? The most specific answer, you can get a point on Class Dojo. Number 3, what was the area around them called that they took control over? Number 4, how did they mark the territory they owned? Number 5, what was their main form of economy? Number 6, what was their form of writing called? Number 7, who overtook Sumer? And number 8, who led this empire? Okay, write just the answer. I'll catch you some slack. You don't have to write the questions this time. However, you do need to show this to me when you get back to class. Okay, we're going to watch a video next. Okay, it's pretty short.
Sumer was located on the Mesopotamian plain, close to the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. It was made up of several city-states, which were small, independent cities with surrounding villages and farms. The city-states were enclosed by walls for protection. Mesopotamians were the first people to develop an advanced civilization in Mesopotamia. Major contributions of the Sumerians include the wheel, the plow, the sailboat, and cuneiform, the earliest written language. Although these city-states had a common language, culture, and religion, each had a different king or warlord governing it. Since the city-states of Sumer were not unified under one political leader, they were constantly at war with one another over resources such as water rights and raw materials for building.
Okay, that was pretty short and sweet, but that gave you a little bit of idea more about Sumer and the Sumerian city-states. Okay, let's go ahead and go to the next slide. Now, there is a worksheet. There's only 15 questions. It is under my units of study page. It is called Akkad, Babylon, and Assyria. You need to either print that worksheet out, or at the end of this video you will see the worksheet again. You can copy it down on your paper, or you can go to the end of the video, copy it down real quick, and then write the answers as we go through it. I don't care, but you need to have this written down somewhere in your spiral notebook. Okay, here we go. King Sargon was an ambitious ruler with a well-trained army. He conquered the remaining Sumerian city-states one by one and united them with his kingdom called Akkad. He became known as the King of Sumer and Akkad. When he did this, he formed the world's first empire. Eventually, his empire extended to include all of the people in Mesopotamia, and it lasted for more than 200 years before invaders conquered it. Now, if you look up here at your standard, you'll notice that it says, you are to be able to tell me the significance of Sargon. Okay? Well, you should know now, since I put it in all caps, that one of the things that he did that was very significant was he created the world's first empire. When he combined Sumer and Akkad, then he made an empire. And his empire was the first one the world had ever seen. Now, there's a legend of Sargon that's really quite interesting. I always ask my students, how does this parallel with another story that you know? Well, let me explain what I mean when I say that. If your math teacher asks you to draw a parallel line beside a vertical line that he has on the board, then what would you do? Hopefully you're going to say that you would go up and you would draw a vertical line beside that line that he has drawn. And then for infinity, that line and the other line would run parallel to each other. They would never cross, they would never touch. They would always run side by side. Well, in literature, you can have stories that parallel with each other as well. What I mean by that is when you hear a story, your brain automatically goes to another story that you've read, and it makes you go, that kind of sounds like something else I've heard before. Well, I'm thinking that when you hear the legend of Sargon, that might be exactly what you say. I think I've heard that before. Well, I have a story in my mind, and after you hear this, maybe you can come into class and tell me a story that you have in your mind that parallels with his legend, and we'll see if we're thinking of the same one. Okay, so let's pull this over and read it. I do have a few typos in here. I apologize. I will fix those later. Alright, the legend of Sargon. According to the cuneiform inscription known as the Legend of Sargon, he was born to a temple priestess. He never knew his father. His mother could not let people know that she was going to have a baby, nor could she keep the child after he was born, so she placed him in a basket and put him in the Euphrates River. She sealed the basket with tar so that it would not leak. The water carried him safely to a place where he was later found by a man named Akkad, who was a gardener for Subaba, the king of the Sumerian city of Kish. Sargon was raised as a gardener. Sargon distanced himself from the kings of the past who claimed their divine right, and aligned himself with the common people of the region rather than the ruling elite. He later became king of the Akkadian people. Does this story parallel with any other story that you might know about? I'm thinking of one. Maybe when you come in tomorrow or later this week, you can tell me what you're thinking of as well. Alright, so that is the legend of Sargon. Alright, let's move this back out of the way. And we're going to continue reading right here. People called the Amorites invaded Mesopotamia and built their own cities, one of which was Babylon. Their king's name was Hammurabi. He controlled the Amorites and conquered many lands, thus creating a new empire known as the Babylonian Empire. King Hammurabi was thought to be a fair, just king. He established a set of laws for his empire, which he posted as a law code. His laws were carved on a large black stone known as the stela. Every day a scribe would read the laws from the stela so that everyone would be aware of them, and no one could say they did not know what they were. The code protected people less powerful. For example, it protected wives from abuse by their husbands. This law code became known as an eye for an eye. Now, we call these the Code of Laws or Hammurabi's Code of Laws. Okay, so let's take a look at the Hammurabi Code of Laws on the stone stela. All right, really quickly though, before we do, notice this in your standard says the significance also of Hammurabi. Well, the thing that was most significant about him was the Code of Laws. He was a king who came up with the first known law code, and he made sure that everybody knew it. Now, if you've listened to me in class, you know that the only people who could read and write were the scribes. The common man in Mesopotamia could not read. The common man in Babylon, in Sumer, could not read. The scribes could read because they learned to write. So, Hammurabi knew this. He was aware that people would say, King Hammurabi, I didn't know that was against the law. How can you punish me if I didn't know that I did something that was wrong? That's why he had the scribes read from the stela every day. No one could use the excuse now of, oh, King Hammurabi, I'm so sorry. I did not realize that I broke the law. Please forgive me. Don't punish me. Nope. Too bad. It was read to you. So now you didn't have to worry about trying to figure out how to read it yourself. You heard it. All right, let's take a look at the stone stela. This is what Hammurabi's Code of Law was written on. Now, if you notice, let me erase these lines I have here. If you notice, the stone is pretty huge, and all of his laws were written down this black stone stela. There were over 200 of them, and this is where the scribes would stand during the day and read aloud to the people the laws that King Hammurabi had established. Okay, this does stand in a museum. I forget where, but if you look it up on the internet, you can find out where it is. Now, there is one thing I want to point out about this, and that is the top. You see a picture that's been, I guess, engraved or embossed on the top of the stone. Everybody thinks that that is King Hammurabi, right there, sitting on his throne, passing down judgment on someone who has committed a crime. That is not what archaeologists believe it to be. Archaeologists actually believe that this is one of the gods passing down the right to King Hammurabi to be king. Because if you have listened to me in class, then you're going to know that the kings and the people believed that they were king because the gods had said they should be. Now, if you noticed in this legend of Sargon, right here it said, Sargon distanced himself from the kings of the past who claimed divine right. That divine right means that they were given their power by the gods. King Sargon distanced himself from that. He got away from it. He didn't go for that. King Hammurabi, on the other hand, he may have believed that, since this was what was carved on top of his law code. So if anybody tells you, oh, that's a picture of King Hammurabi and he's passing down judgment on someone, you can say, oh, no, it's not. Archaeologists and historians believe that this is the god that was the main god over the land, and this is King Hammurabi accepting that right to become king. Okay, so we're moving right along now. We're going to read the next slide. Now, the Assyrian Empire rose up after Hammurabi's reign. They were a large and powerful empire with a huge military force that was used to protect their fertile hills and valleys. Their army was well trained and disciplined. They had around 50,000 troops. They robbed people, set crops on fire, and destroyed homes. They took a tribute, or a forced payment for protection, from the conquered people. They were brutal, vicious men. People were so afraid of them, they would simply surrender without a fight for fear of their lives. The weapons, there's some typos here. Their weapons were extremely strong, as the Assyrians had mastered the production of iron, an extremely strong metal. Their capital city was in Nineveh, located near the Tigris River. Assyrian kings were very powerful and had to rule large areas of land. Because of this, they divided their empire into provinces, or political districts. The kings chose government officials to govern, collect taxes, and carry out laws in each province. Like the Mesopotamians, the Assyrians had law codes. However, they were much harsher. They worshipped many of the same gods, built temples, wrote stories, and came up with the Assyrian alphabet. They even built the world's first library. But don't let them fool you. They were vicious. Okay, we're going to take a quick look here at the Assyrian alphabet. I think you're going to appreciate your alphabet a little bit more when you see this. Okay, I think that our alphabet, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, is a little bit easier than this one. There are a lot more characters in this alphabet than there are in our alphabet that we use. Okay, so some of their accomplishments: the alphabet, writing stories, and this one, the first library. If any of you like to go to the library and read books, you can thank the Assyrians for that, even though they were really mean. Alright, let's go on to the last slide. Farming and trade were both important to the Assyrians. They brought in wood and metal from far away so they could make better tools and weapons. They ruled the area from the Persian Gulf to Egypt for 300 years. But then their people started to rebel, causing turmoil in the region. They were looking for the next Assyrian ruler. During this time, a group of people called the Chaldeans rose up and took power. This was the end of the Assyrian rule. Alright, now like I told you, you have 15 short questions that you were supposed to answer as we went through this video, or you can go back through the video to help you find the answers, or if you know them, you can go ahead and write them down. Here's the worksheet, the very one that we did in class today. You can either some way copy and paste it off of this slide and turn it in tomorrow, or you can just go to my units of study and download it, and you can write your answers in and bring it tomorrow. Or if you're really tech savvy, you can type your answers on the worksheet and email it to me. Okay, but in any way, shape, or form, however you decide to do it, you do need to get this done and get it in your spiral notebook so you won't be behind. Alright, you guys, I will see you soon. See you, bye.